Hello, YouTube family. Good evening. This is Alex here from Van Ganta House German Shepherd and Jim from Jim Shorty Jacks. How are you, Jim?
I'm doing good. How are you, Alex?
I'm doing fine. We're having a snowstorm here in Jersey City,
Oh
New
man,
Jersey.
I'm not missing any of that.
You're in Texas, so you're enjoying warm weather. Well, I'm freezing here.
I'm glad to be right here talking to you with where I'm at.
You got it. Um, for those who don't remember, Jim and I did a video earlier on my channel. Jim is a breeder of Shorty Jacks. I'm a German Shepherd breeder. Uh, we're going to ask Jim to reintroduce himself because maybe people don't remember him. I hope they do. Um, Today's topic will be how to do selection pressure in breeding dogs. Now, a lot of our pure breeds, our heritage breeds, don't have selection pressure applied anymore. If our dogs were to be in nature, they would die because nature does not produce animals that can't walk, can't run, can't reproduce naturally by having, uh, sex naturally, can't be born because they require a C-section. If they don't have lung capacity, they can't run after prey and eat and feed themselves. Don't have lung capacity, have tremendously poor eyesight, have a lot of diseases. Those animals will not even last one winter in nature. However, mankind in designing our breeds has taken away the selection pressure you find in nature. And if you compare dogs to wolves, dogs have about 253 identified canine diseases. There are probably even more, but we know based on Embark, there are about 253 that we've identified. Wolves, by comparison, only have 7 diseases. So how is it that the forebearer of the dog, the wolf, has 7 diseases and dogs have 253? So we're going to talk about how nature selects for fitness versus human beings, and we're going to give some explanations and we'll discuss it back and forth. Jim and I have become fast friends offline, not just on YouTube. We discuss breeding and genetics almost every day. We talk about a lot of different things. And Jim, please reintroduce yourself to our audience and please mention your channel and your web URL if you can. I'm
Um,
also going to put it in the description. And also, how do
Jim,
you feel about this topic?
I'm Jim with Jordan Shorty Jacks. I raise short Jack Russell Terriers.
Jim,
And
your audio is very low. Can you come closer to the microphone or put your
can you
volume up?
hear me now?
It can, but it's very low volume. Can you increase your volume a little more?
Is that better?
Yes, that's better.
Okay,
Yes.
there we go. That's good. All right. I raise short Jack Russell Terriers. Our kennel name is Jordan Shorty Jacks, and that's about the size that we've been breeding for a while. Uh, let's get into it. Let's go.
Okay.
Go.
All right, very good. So, the most important thing we need to understand is why did the dogs that were developed in the Victorian era in the 19th century, when a lot, I mean, not all our breeds are from the 19th century, but breeding of breeds became popular in the 19th century, probably prior to the 19th century, you had land races. Now, there are some breeds like the Besserone, which is 400 years old, and the Greyhound and the Pharaoh dogs, which go back to ancient Egypt. So they're even older. But a lot of our current breeds go back to the Victorian era in 19th century England. We're talking about 1878, roughly speaking, until about 1890, right before the Industrial Revolution. And dogs were bred for function. If a terrier didn't hunt rats or foxes, it wasn't bred. If a bulldog did not protect its family or did bull baiting, it wasn't bred. Yet all of a sudden, breeders have the psychology these days about having pets and only pets, and the fact that they're a certain breed of a certain type for a certain purpose is no longer taken into account. Most of today's pet buyers simply want a pet. But I can tell you that the genetics of a breed which have been bred for 120 years or so or more are very powerful genetics. The instincts are very powerful. And if I feel we need to return our pure breeds closer to what they were in the 19th century or even the early 20th century, I don't think what we have now is a proper representation of the breeds. And we're going to talk about three breeds today specifically. We're going to talk about the German Shepherd, my breed. We're going to talk about the British Bulldog as an example of a breed that went haywire pretty badly. And we're going to talk about various terriers, which is Jim's specialty, terriers. And we're going to give examples, videos, and photographs and examine the current state of health of our pure breeds. Jim, would you like to add anything to my remarks?
It's really not even breed specific. It's when things happen in nature. Nature's called the sick. They don't make it. They get too old. They die off from disease, and the strong survive, and that's how they build up these genetics to survive in the wild. So it's not a. I guess what I want. I hear so much of people getting into the Russell Terrier, the Jack Russell Terrier. It was made for Fox, okay? But it's a discipline. We're dealing with working dogs, dogs that want to survive. They're being tested by their environment in the wild, and we emulate uh, everything. We domesticated them, and we're emulating those things. And the issue is like you were saying, there's all these things with the diseases, and we only know like 200 something of them or whatever's in your breed that is more relevant. Something else is relevant in my breed, and through breeding, like in the wild, they get line bred. They're breeding. This one's sick. Teeth don't form properly. Structures out of whack. Can't perform and chase and be able to eat and survive. That's their test. So when we're testing them for ourselves in our environment, it's going to be different than other people. So, when people come on here and they probably see us talking about it, they're like, oh, remember the God Dog TV guy that grabbed our video? We had like an hour and 45-minute video, and he grabbed it for his channel, and that's okay. He had good things to say,
Right.
but he turned it into like a 5-hour video, right?
Almost, yeah.
Okay, but they had good things to say, and they were chiming in there, but they were like some of the things because I went and I watched their clip, what they were doing with the video, and they were like, we were talking about how we're doing specific line breeding and taking shorter steps so that we can fine tune issues like disease or characteristic structure. Whenever we say structure, they're like, oh, what'd they say? They said, I just want to breed for the craziest one that I'm going to get. Well, if you just want the crazy ones, how are you going to control your genetics? To keep the crazy ones, if you're just breeding all over the place, keeping that one that's probably running in there all stupid with whatever you're using it for, it's getting culled out by by the query, and so it depends on your discipline and the environment you're in is what you're going to test your dog on. And what he said was in there, it's like, these two guys, they're gray hair. And I'm like, thank you very much. I've already, it's been a long walk to get here. So I'm kind of proud of it. But he refers it to, oh, but we're not showing or something. Well, anything to doing with genetics, structure of the animal, testing their skills and their abilities. Uh, you have to do all those things and make each one of them improved. When you're breeding, you improve them, right?
The issue is that every breed has a breed standard,
Yes. Yes.
and the problem is the people breeding, in my opinion, misinterpret the breed standard. It's just one problem. Another problem is the popular sire syndrome, where a specific dog becomes the father of many, many litters across many, many other kennels. And his genetics get therefore reintroduced, but he's the wrong choice, and therefore his characteristics get cemented. Another problem is the money to be made. For example, in the West German Showline, there was two brothers called the Martin brothers, Martin Weinerau and from the Weinerau kennel, and the other kennel was I can't think of the name for some reason. Herman Arminius kennel, Arminius. The problem was one was the SV judge and headed the SV. The SV is the Verisch Schufferhund, or the German Shepherd Club, that in Germany, that the founder of the breed, Captain Max von Stefanitz, founded. And so the dogs which went before the judge brother had to be bred to his brother's sires, where his brother's dogs were grandsires or fathers of the bitches that the other people had, and the puppies which resulted were then became VA1, VA2, highest possible scores. Then back then, in the 1980s, for by way of comparison, a house in the 1980s cost about $45,000. That's what a house cost in 1985, 1986. All of a sudden, these dogs were sent to Japan. There was a big economic market in Japan, and these dogs were being sold for $100,000 in the 1980s. Imagine $100,000 in 1986.
Hey, where's the site where you sign up for that if you're offering some puppies? That's
Well, I would like that site too, right? I would like some of that money too. But what I mean is, when these two brothers, so I feel that the West German Showline, and this is a controversial point I'm making, but I feel the West German Showline was bred for the aesthetic that produced the big money for sale to Japan. And because the person making that aesthetic was the head of the ASV, he profited, whether directly or indirectly, when this new German Shepherd became the norm versus the working line German Shepherd, which is straight back, ability to jump an A-frame, ability to work. Now, German Shepherd is not a protection breed. People don't understand what the German Shepherd is. The German Shepherd is not a working breed. The Doberman is a working breed.
a herding breed.
It's a herding breed. It's meant to be a versatile dog. You want this dog to be guiding the blind, it can guide the blind. You want the dog to herd sheep, it can herd sheep. You want the dog to do protection work and be a police dog, it can be a police dog.
Its origins was herding.
Its origins are the herding dogs have all the properties that makes them very versatile and very trainable. Now,
Yeah.
when a certain look becomes economically advantageous, all of a sudden that drives the breed development for the that look which makes you money rather than the good of the breed. I'm going to show a couple of examples to the audience, and then we're going to go to other breeds. I know this is not your breed, but we're doing a general topic. We're not talking about the German Shepherd here.
That's right.
We're not talking about the Terrier. We're just talking using examples in real life. So just bear with me as I bring up some photographs
Yeah, this is
and
just
some.
everybody. It
Right,
doesn't matter what breed you're in. There's a
correct,
structure, there's a standard, there's all of those things applied to your breed, uh, genetics, structure, standard, disciplines, what their origins were, what they were initially worked
right.
for. You know,
I'm going to bring up a couple of first visual screenshots, and then I'm going to bring up a couple of videos. And I think the old expression, "a picture is worth 1,000 words," is very true. So I'm looking up another monitor. That's why my eyes are gazing up. Give me a second to share my screen, and I'm gonna give you some visual examples, guys.
well, that's okay because my eyes will be gazing down, looking at your example.
That's true too. Share screen. Let me make sure I do it right. All right. All right. You should be able to see a folder on my hard drive. All right. So the first thing I want to show you, how do I make it full screen? I'll make it full screen over here so you guys can see better. Can you guys see this German Shepherd or not?
Yes. Yeah.
Notice the roundness of the back. This is called an elephant back or a roach back. Now, if you look at the German Shepherd in the 1920s and 1930s, this is some kind of an abomination. This is a German Shepherd in the front and some kind of a frog in the back. This is not normal spine of a canine. This is a spine of a elephant, which has a curvature of the spine. Now, why is this kind of spine developed? Because by gating around the ring for a long time, the dog develops a far reach with the front paw, giving it an exaggerated reach with the front paw, and it can gait a long time in the ring. Here's another example. So what happens is this is oh, this picture is very small. I don't know if I'm gonna bring up this picture. Hold on. It's too small. Hold on.
You
I
know,
didn't realize.
another picture.
Yeah.
Bad selection for genetics. I mean, it sets the angles of the stifles and way off.
Right. Right. Now here is an American showline, not a West German showline. Notice now this looks better than the dog you just saw, but it looks terrible. Look at the hocks. You see the hocks on the bottom? Instead of the dog having a straight hock like that, this hawk is practically on the ground. Now you're going to say, well, that's because the dog is posed this way. No, if you put this foot forward, the two hocks are supposed to be straight, but this dog has its hocks on the ground because they wanted that angulation in the spine and this exaggerated hock. Let me show you a better picture that you can see it visually better. Bear with me. These pictures came out smaller than I thought. Bear with me. I'm going to bring up some better representations than these pictures because I think the picture is too small to see it. So hold on, please. I want to make sure you guys see it a little better. All right, I'm bringing up my own website. Can you guys see this screen or no? Or do
Yes.
I have to reshare it?
No, you can. Wait,
You can see it? Okay. So here's an example of the West German showline. See, it's black and red. Notice the curvature of the spine. It's called a roach back. It's a banana back, right? So in the notice the exaggerated chest proportion. See how it's very wide? Now in the wolf, uh, the chest is very narrow and the feet are almost straight down. So notice this is a very big chest and a very overangulated chest right here. Beautiful head shape, but look at the spine curvature. Now by contrast, look at an East German Shepherd. East Germany, for those who don't know, existed from 1945 till 1989. Notice the dark pigment. Notice he's standing in a rake, which is the pose of the show pose. But notice he's not walking on his hocks, even though he's extremely angulated in this pose. He has an imposing size. There's distinct differences in males and females. Now compare that to the American showline. Here's examples of the American showline. This is an American showline from the 1970s. Okay, they were still look like German Shepherds somewhat. After that, they became even worse. Notice the dog is, you can't tell if it's a male or a female. Take a look at this dog, right? And a German Shepherd, a male and a female are supposed to be very distinct in how they look. You should be able to tell a dog is distinctly masculine or distinctly feminine. Now, this is an American showline. You can't tell it's a male or a female based on this picture. The muzzle is long, thin, narrow, like in a female. But believe it or not, this is actually a male. So this is an American showline. Their temperaments are weak. They can't do bite work. It's no longer a German Shepherd. It is now, in my opinion, should be called the American Shepherd. It's a different breed.
now, Alex,
Yes.
let me just ask you, because I don't breed the German Shepherd. I
Right.
want to know what is a good structure? Is there a dog on there?
Yes. The West German.
Is the
Uh,
good is the structure for standard for Is that
Yes, there is. Yes, there is. I'm about to show that. I think it's showing it picture in picture. Let me stop sharing and redo it 1 second. I think something is not right with the way I shared it. Let me do it again so it shares a little better. Otherwise, it doesn't. It doesn't. It looks like a picture in picture versus what I really want to show. And so just 1 second, please. I think it's screen two. No, that doesn't work right. Hold on. Let me. Sorry, guys. I'm not the best at some of this application stuff.
big?
A lot, a
Uh,
lot of.
was the standard for the German Shepherd? Was it
It was invented in the 1920s.
off of
In
a
1899, actually. Let me Google that, and you will see what I'm saying.
was it a herding based on herd?
Yes,
Yes.
yes, yes. So I'm going to show you now. So these are very early German Shepherds. Uh, can you guys still see my screen, or I have to reshare?
All I'm seeing is you and I.
Oh, okay. Then I didn't reshare it. 1 second. This is not like Teams or Zoom. It's a kind of different way of sharing that this program is not the same way. Let me move it over to this page, and you'll see better. 1 second. Okay, let me see if I can share the screen a little bit easier. All right, so can you? This is on Facebook.
Yeah.
Notice this the shape. See the square back. Notice the very light build, very athletic build. This is a Dutch Shepherd, but it was actually an early German Shepherd. See the square body. See the athleticism, the lighter bone. See that?
So it's
This
got
is what the early German Shepherds looked like in the 1920s, 1930s.
good straight back, right? Good level
Very
back.
straight back, very level back. You see? See
Now
the
from that
back?
dog right there,
Right.
you can see it has straight legs, and then it kind of
Straight legs. It looks like a dog that can actually run and herd all day.
and the shoulder lays back into the spine.
Correct. So what I'm saying is the dogs are now visually very different. Now look at the American. Can you guys still see my screen or no?
Yes.
Do you see the American Showline? Do you see the spine curvature where the hip meets the spine? That's how you get hip dysplasia because the socket of the hip can't possibly fit. It becomes a very loose socket into that hip, and that's how you have hip dysplasia. Now, this video called "The Working Line Shepherd" on I think it's a good I think it's Good Dog TV or something like that. One of the better channels. Now look at the difference here. See, this is an East German Czech type. See the masculinity of this dog? You could tell it's a male. It's a very pronounced secondary sex characteristics. He has very heavy bone, very dark pigment, you could tell he's bred for a purpose. This is a famous Czech dog which was bred to do bite work. This is a man stopper. Now you compare him to the American Showline, same breed. This is a male, but it looks feminine. It looks like a female, number one. Look at the hocks. Look at the dog practically having no hocks. He's walking on his hocks. You see that? So this is an American Showline. This is an East German or Czech line. You see the difference? I mean, look at this. That's what a German Shepherd's supposed to look like. And compare it to this. This is an abomination. This does not look like a herding dog anymore. Compare this 1970s Showline before the Martin brothers got involved. And this is today's Showline. Can you see the difference? The difference is striking. So this is, here's another example. Here's a West German working line. Notice the straight back. Now it's not a square back like in a Malinois. A Malinois is perfectly square. In a German Shepherd, the length from the croup to all the way to from the shoulder all the way to the tail is slightly longer than from the shoulder to the ground. So it's not a perfectly square dog, but you can see this dog is built anatomically looks like a wolf. This dog can run. This dog can jump. Do you think this dog can run and jump? Um, Here's a check type. You can see the big blocky head, the much heavier bone, the distinct masculinity of this dog. He's standing in a rake, like what's called a classic pose for a German Shepherd for a show, but he does not have collapsed hocks.
So what were these? Were they bred like that for what?
They were
So
bred for that for aesthetics. Now,
what
the,
pressure was put on them to breed them that? That's what I'm.
well, it became a misinterpretation of the breed standard. See, the Americans read the German Shepherd standard as written by Max von Stefanitz, and they bred for the show ring. And when, let me see if I can stop sharing 1 second. Let me see if I can stop sharing because I think I got something wrong. 1 second. I'm sorry, guys. I'm trying to get this right.
It's back to us now.
Back to us. All right. Let me move this down so I can look at the camera better. Okay. So basically, there are several things that happen. First of all, when our soldier boys left World War II in 1945 and brought those dogs back to the United States, those dogs were originally real German Shepherds from Germany, the country of origin. But once people started interpreting the breed as to their own wishes and their own desire, it's not their breed to interpret. It was created by Max von Stefanitz, and people had to adhere to what he wrote, not their own version of it. And so people did not follow the original breeder's goals. That's first reason. Second reason is once you start breeding away from the original and those dogs win shows, everybody says, well, that's what it's supposed to look like because the judges say that's what it's supposed to look like. So then the judges develop a bias that this type, which looks weird, now becomes the new normal. And now everybody breeds toward that new normal, even though it's wrong. So that's the second bias, the confirmation bias. The third reason is people here are breed for the pet market. Now, let me give an example in the German Shepherd. In the German Shepherd, before, now I don't go through all this in my breeding program, but this is how a properly bred German Shepherd has to be bred. Let me explain. In Germany, okay? The first thing is the dog must have at least a Schutzen 1. So after it gets a BH, which is a temperament test, and it has to go through a crowd, go through a man on a bicycle and not bite it. So it gets an obedience exercise phase, but then also has to get a temperament test that it's not vicious, that it can be handled and touched and not uh, bite everything in sight. That's not a proper temperament. So the BH is first a temperament test, and the dog goes on to an IGP-1, where it must do a tracking, obedience, and protection. The highest level is IGP-3, but a dog at least has to be IGP-1 in order to breed. Now, after it gets an IGP-1, it does what's called an AD. I don't know how to pronounce the German word, but basically it has to run next to a man on a bicycle, if memory serves, 10 kilometers, which is about 5.5 miles, or I think it's 20 kilometers, which is about 12.5 miles. You can't have a dog with bad hips that can run 12.5 miles. That would force eliminating the weak hip dogs by virtue they can't run for 12.5 miles with bad hips, and also dogs with terrible lung capacity. You
So
can run 12.
all of those, all these tests that you guys do with the German Shepherds that you're
Right.
seeing, so these are the selective pressures to test their abilities.
Correct.
So
Correct. Right. So basically, dog has to pass an IGP-1. It has to show power to the helper in the protection phase. It cannot be a cowardly dog that runs the other way when the helper cracks a whip or shows a stick. Dog cannot bow down in fear and run the other way. Those dogs automatically are DQ'd, disqualified. So it has to be IGP-1, then has to have an AD, then it needs a show score of at least an SG, sehr gut or very good in German. And then it needs to be core classed. So in other words, there's a breed surveyor, an experienced judge which knows the breed. It's called a core meister, and the core meister evaluates the dog. He gives him either an SG, a KKL2, or a KKL1. And then once the dog has all five things, breed surveyed, show score, working score, and AD, all these things are then put on the dog. Only then he gets a breeding license to breed.
Right.
So, so in Germany, a dog has to be core classed, which means breed surveyed. Now, also the core meister will tell you breed this dog, which is these qualities, to this bitch to get an improvement of the breed. For example, back in the days of East Germany, there were five lines which made the East German Shepherd. And each line, and now a line in dogs is the parental line. It is the son, the father, the father's father, the father's father, the father's father, back as many generations until you go to the beginning of that line. So a line means the male line.
Well, I don't want us to get too far off that selectiveness, but I wanted to find out. So outside of those showing and trial things
Right.
that you're doing, like for my stuff,
Right.
okay, for me, our dogs they were bred to hunt fox.
Or rats.
Oh,
Right.
in the tunnel, it was originally designed to be fox shaped to go where the fox can go
Right.
in height, length, be able to be spannable, where they can
Right.
turn around and operate in these small pipes going into den pipes. Well, and then when they get to them, they bay at them because they were running around hunting them, and digging to them and to bolt them. Well, for me, bolting is great. If you're going to hunt a fox, I'm in Texas, they're doing it with shovels and rock bars. It's really nostalgic. Okay. It just, it's a good hobby because here you might need a chainsaw, you might need a sawzall or a backhoe because we don't just have these lush lands where there's groundhog tunnels that they're taking over and they're elusive. Once or twice a year we might see them. They're living in their houses. They're living in big tree piles that's been piled up for years, waiting to be burned under sheds. You're not just going to walk along and be like, oh, there's a fox. They're in that stuff and maybe down in there, and you're not going to get it with a shovel and a rock bar. So even though that's what they were bred for, then it went to rodents and varmint stuff like that. So the selective pressures that I can put on mine, not when we're talking these standards, but in on the other side of that, we're talking testing their abilities. Uh,
Right.
to hunt a fox, and then it's on private property around here, landlines, all that stuff. If I want to do a groundhog, I got to go to the zoo. They're not going to like that when I show up with my dogs to work some groundhogs. So they get tested on raccoons, possum, squirrels, gophers. Everything except squirrels and groundhogs.
Right.
They'll work adolescent pigs. They'll work big hawks, but you know what?
Right.
They're outclassed. It's dangerous for them for that.
Well, the thing to remember in your breed, and people who are watching this may or may not know this. I don't know what people know or don't know, but back in the 19th century, the aristocrats were on horseback. Their land was privately owned, not publicly owned, and they could bolt a fox so then the hunters on horseback could chase the fox. And it was a game to be fun by the rich boys, by the aristocrats. But
Richmond,
but in reality, if it comes down to it, when that fox is in that hole and that terrier is pressuring the fox to bolt, it might not bolt. It might kill the dog.
that's what I was going to tell you.
So,
For me,
so you want the dog to kill the fox,
yeah, I get
not just bolt the fox, because
in
the
these conversations with these
right,
people, right, about that.
right,
And they're like, oh, it's supposed to bolt it. It's supposed to ban it.
right,
I want my dog to be able to do problem solving. Uh,
right,
I want it to be able to identify. Sure, it's great. Let's hold them there. Let's bay or we're talking about a fox, and I don't hunt fox, like I was
Right.
saying.
Right.
But it doesn't matter what it is. A raccoon, I want to see their intelligence. I want to see them problem solving. You know, how judging how far they're coming down. But if they're aggressed upon, if they turn around and roll up in a ball, they're going to get messed up.
Right.
I want my dog at that time to be able to decide, I'm being aggressed upon, I'm going to engage. It's time to
Right.
engage.
You're gonna dispatch that rodent or whatever that is, right?
Now the game has changed and dispatched, and we do that. That's how we test our dogs, or
Right.
in my natural environment.
Right.
Okay, showing's great for building structure, pretty on a string. Everybody's got their vision and their goals of what they like to do, and
Right. You're right. Later in this video, I'm gonna show some videos of not just your breed but other terriers. For the people who don't know why it's called a terrier, it comes from the French word terra firma, firm ground. Terra, earth.
go to earth, go to earth.
Terra firma, firm ground. So the dog goes to ground, meaning the dog goes into a burrow to push out the vermin. So the word terrier comes from goes to ground. That's what from the French terra firma. So therefore, um, terriers were meant to kill vermin. They were not meant to be couch potatoes getting hot
And
dogs.
fur and selling fur and making money.
Right. And then back then, now it's killing animals for fur is considered terrible, right?
Then they
But back
outlawed
then, how do you think people survived the Alaska gold rush?
it. Then when they outlawed it, then it went,
Right.
oh well, all right, we're gonna do rats. Groundhogs are easier to fight.
Right.
We're gonna do rats, and we can't do fox anymore because all
We
the guys.
can't have furs anymore. Right. But basically, let's be honest. What did rich women wear, which was considered the height of fashion? Mink or fox or chinchilla or wolf or bear. Their hides kept human beings warm through the ice age. If we didn't hunt these animals and use their fur to keep ourselves warm, we as a species would have not survived.
But Alex, it's just like that. It's just like those guys I was telling you about.
Right.
That clip grabbed the video. It's
Right.
just like that. They went immediately to they must be talking about shows. People, we're
No,
not,
we're not.
and it's not. It's easy to get you know to be able to identify a standard of structure of an origin of a
Right.
dog, what they were built for, to herd or to bolt fox. And
Right.
in real reality, you can't. And it works the same way with genetics and breeding.
Right.
You breed like for like for like for like for like.
Well, that's the problem of confirmation only shows. I'm going to show some videos for the audience of a few breeds, and I want you to comment it on the other side, okay? Per breed, okay? So let me show some videos one by one. I'll make comments and you'll go ahead and make comments, Jim,
Sure.
and we'll show it on a breed by breed basis.
You know,
Uh,
the
and
difference.
we'll show it, and these are other people's videos, but we're not using it for copyright purposes. We're using it for explanation purposes. So we're not stealing their content. We're merely commenting on their content. I don't want to get a strike,
All the
a
breeds,
copyright strike.
all those breeds, different breeds, even people within the same breed. Okay, like
Right.
you know, Lee Robinson does a good example of a lot of his stuff about he tests his dogs with hogs or
Right.
whatever their abilities. But guess what else they do? Their companion security dogs, you know, used for that type of work. Uh,
Yeah,
but
he makes a very good point in his video. I have a lot of respect for Lee Robinson because I want to show now. I'm going to share this screen. Bear with me as I share each video.
let's do it.
You're not going to hear the audio because the when you play a YouTube through another YouTube,
You lose it.
the audio is muted. Hold on, let me see if I can make this work. Bear with me as I share this screen, okay? Because it have to share it manually, screen by screen. That's how this thing works.
My point was while you're looking that up was, even if his situation, right?
No, that's not right.
If he was to all of a sudden not have access to hogs, you still need
Right.
to test your animals, you know, My dogs are working dogs. Okay,
Correct.
getting tested on many different disciplines. So if I wanted to drive 12 hours and get out there in the Virginias and all that stuff where that you can actually do that with the fox, I don't doubt that my dogs could work those fox. They can do many disciplines.
Correct. So I'm going to share a video. Bear with me as I bring this over to this screen. Can you guys see this screen, or I'm not sure if I shared it right?
I'm
Is
not
this
seeing pictures
can you
though.
see a German Shepherd or no?
No.
No? Oh, all right. So,
I mean, my point is, you take that fox out of the picture.
right.
What am I? What am I working on? I mean, what am I supposed to test my dogs on? There's got to be something, right? If you take those hogs away from Lee Robinson, you still need to test the abilities of your dog to go forward with breeding, and all the things. And then, okay, well, structure is still important in working animals. It's not just a
No, yeah, we're not saying it's not important, but it's not the only thing. That's the
show.
key,
It's the total dog.
right? I'm having, I will hope I'm presenting the right screen. Let me know if you see it. If not, let me know. No, that's not the right screen. Can you guys see this screen with the German Shepherd running or no?
Yeah, we did for a second, now we can't.
Okay, hold on. I'm having a little trouble. I'm sorry, guys. I'm not the best at it. I'm sorry. I have to do a little. Um,
You know, because the selection, the pressures is what, we're getting off on a few other things for selective pressure and stuff like that, for what was done in the wild.
all right. You guys see this screen?
Yep.
Okay, finally, I did it right. Sorry about that. All right, so I'm going to play this. This is a show line parading around in a circle. Watch carefully what he does and why the arch back makes sense. Watch. Now, let me stop sharing because I think I got my point across. Let me see how this thing works. Stop sharing. Okay, very good. All right, so now a couple of observations about that dog running in the circle. If you notice the dog running, how he gates is how he's judged. And then the judge watches how the dogs run in a circle to award him a show score. Now, if you have an exaggerated front paw reach when the back is curved like that. Now, I gotta ask you a question, Jim. What does running a dog in a circle do for the temperament of the dog and choosing the winner? Does it do anything? No, right? Are you judging a horse? A horse has four gaits: the walk, the trot, the cantilever, if I'm pronouncing that right, and the gallop. I'm not an expert on horses, but a horse has four gaits, right? Now, what the hell are you doing applying horse logic to dogs?
Well, I don't show, but I'll tell you like what I've noticed and seen some of them and seeing the judges and I don't bash anybody. They may be very well looking at it, but
Right.
the dog was looking at a dog's movement. You can usually see what bones aren't correct in
Right.
the line. Okay, by watching them in a gate.
Correct. So if your goal is to create proper structure by watching movement, then getting them around in a circle would make sense. But you know what also would make sense?
If that's what you were doing.
If a dog is jumping an A-frame or over a jump to retrieve a dumbbell, it can gather itself with its rear legs in terms of muscle power and jump an obstacle. That's also judging locomotion. Here's an example. I'm going to show you an example.
And in the wild, was any of that
Would
pressure?
we see any of that as selection pressure? how the dogs runs in a circle or a wolf runs in a circle?
We would know it had a good bite.
Would you care about a dog running in a circle as a test of its ability to reproduce?
But yeah, you're right. But we always get to what?
Right.
Not in the wild. Yeah.
So let me show you a video. Let me share this video with you. All right. Does everybody see this German Shepherd?
Yeah.
Everybody see it, or I didn't share it right?
You shared it right.
You see it?
Yes.
Okay. No, this is a dog doing an obedience routine. This is Yukon Van Perot, the grandfather of my bitch Bailey and the great grandfather of all my dogs. Now, he's doing an obedience routine. Look at the dog's focus on the handler. Now he's changing pace, and the dog maintains the heel. He went from a walk to a run to a slow walk. Dog maintains heel, off leash, no leash on him. Then he'll do a figure eight through the group. You'll see that in a minute. So he'll walk around people without being. Now this is a right turn, another right turn. And I want you to watch this video for just a few minutes. I know this is not a German Shepherd video only, but just take a few minutes to watch this video and you'll see the point I'm making. Here's a dog which is animated in working for its handler. It is showing good movement, but what you're showing is intelligence, its ability to be trained to this standard. So this is not a low level of obedience. This is an advanced level of obedience. Now the dog will go through a crowd of 4 people while maintaining focus on his handler and not being distracted by the 4 people. He does a figure eight through the 4 people, walking, never losing eye contact with his owner. He pauses. Now the dog will be taken into a walk. Now he does a sit out of motion. The owner walks away from the dog. And the owner returns to the dog in the heel position. Now he'll walk with the dog. Now he'll do a down out of motion. From a dead run, he'll drop him. Watch. So the dog had to drop even though he's in motion of a speed of running. Now he'll do the recall from a down stay. Now he does what's called a front, right in front of the handler. This is not the basic come command like for pet. This is a formal exercise. He goes into the finish from the front. He will heel away from that position and then lock up into a stand stay. So he does sit stay, down stay. Now he will do a stand stay. See, stand stay, out of motion. Recall from the stand stay into the front, then into the finish, back into the heel position. Now we're going to do a 40-point exercises, which is the dumbbell retrieve. This is a Schutzen 3 dumbbell. It's quite heavy. He'll do a retrieve on the flat. He'll bring it and present it to the handler until released. Not just release it himself. Then he'll go into the heel position. Now he will do the same dumbbell over a jump. Now the dog is not going to run on his own until released. See, over a jump, back over the same jump as opposed to going around, back into the front. Will release upon ask, back into the finish or the heel position from the front position. Now the retrieve over the A-frame, which tests the dog's ability to jump, not just the ability to retrieve. Brings. Now the dog jumps back over the A-frame, gives back the dumbbell, and goes into the finish again. And that's all I wanted to show out of this video. Now I'm going to stop sharing. Now let me stop sharing. Okay. Now I'm going to make some comments about this dog. Which test is better for a German Shepherd? The test you just saw or them parading in a circle? Well, let's talk about it. In order for the dog to jump over the A-frame, it has to have good hips or it can't jump that high. In the past, it wasn't a A-frame, it was a wall straight up, not even a A-frame. The dog has to jump over a hurdle. If it has bad hips, it can't jump. The dog has to show movement as part of working with the owner. But most importantly, the dog has to please the owner and be in sync with the owner in doing the exercise. The dog is showing intelligence and trainability, which is called biddability. The dog is biddable. It wants to please, it wants to learn. So now you're testing intelligence in the ability to do a 15, 20-minute obedience routine at a very high level. And you're testing the dog's utility to listen to commands. Now, what is a better test for a dog? Them running in a circle and getting scores, or this test,
Well,
along with bite work and tracking? Now I ask you.
I have to ask you, because,
Right,
you know, uh, I see things when I think of that dog as a herding dog.
right.
I need, I need to see what are those tests. Are those for discipline, for security? Obviously, I see.
The this well, let me explain to the audience which is not familiar with German Shepherds. Okay, so now when you do have a dog for herding, as the breed was in 1890 when it was first created, it's called the Deutsche Schäferhund. The German Shepherd would listen to a whistle at a distance of how to direct the sheep. One whistle meant turn the sheep left, two whistles meant turn the sheep right, and the dogs would do what's called the tending style, not like the border collie, which stares down the sheep and intimidates them and crouches. No, it would be two walls, two dogs forming a living wall that the sheep are between these two dogs, like a living fence, and the dogs would be controlling. So one dog would listen to the owner give commands at a distance with a whistle because they were too far away. And so the dog had to be willing to learn commands either verbally or through whistles. That's how the breed started. Now, as sheep herding was going down and was dying because trains were invented, so people no longer had to move sheep by foot. People had to move 300, 400 sheep across 10 miles with two dogs and one herder. Without two dogs, that sheep guy could not move that herd of sheep of three. Think about that number: 300 sheep controlled by two dogs. You better have a dog with that intelligence that can take commands with a whistle, that can move the sheep according to the flock herder's commands, because the human is telling the dogs how to move the sheep. They're not doing it themselves, they're doing it under the command of the owner.
Right.
Now, Captain Max von Stefan has realized that he cannot market his breed to sheep herders, even though that's how the breed started. He then tried to market the dog to the police and military. Now, if you recall history, World War I was 1914 till 1918. Well, he created the breed in 1890. 1890 to 1900 is only 10 years. By 1914, he was still alive. He died around 1932 or 1935. He had to invent a new purpose for his breed to popularize the breed.
And
So,
just like
and,
that, the
and
test.
that's how he made these exercises called Schutzhund or protection dog, where obedience is part of the exercise. So is bite work. I didn't show bite work,
Right.
and I didn't show tracking. But the dog is showing utility. How do you think search and rescue dogs come about? They
That's
have to
right.
find dogs, children lost under rubble in a building explosion, right? Or a building goes down. Now, you want a very intelligent dog. You also want a dog with good hunt drive. The dog will persist in the search and not give up. Well, if you teach a dog tracking, you're not teaching it to follow an odor. You're teaching it to persist in the face of adversity, to stay on the track despite not finding the object right away. So that breeding with dogs which can pass those tests, which can uh, track or not track, you're creating selection pressure, not
Yeah.
just for good sense of smell,
Yes.
but to find things lost in the rubble.
See, we're getting this. I have to ask you because you can explain it for your audience with the German Shepherds. And I'm going to ask you through all that training.
Right,
When I do all that training,
right.
is it going to hurt? because I'm just asking that because this is where people get lost with that type of training. It's a herding dog. Oh, we're using these kind of dogs. We need to go out and test it, 100 dogs, because it's a different breed. It's a different purpose, and the purpose has changed over time.
True.
So
The dog had to adapt, right?
now they became a more
Pet type dogs only.
a pet dog, but I mean they
Right.
became
Well,
a
that was my point about the German
do
Shepherd. It's a
more,
versatile breed. It's meant to be multiple things.
do more than
S-
just herd shit.
Right. Exactly. So some breeds, like a beagle, right? They're not that intelligent, by the way. If you've ever tried to train a beagle to a high standard, they're not that intelligent. But they're very loud when they're on the pursuit of something, because they were bred to be loud. Because the guys on horseback were maybe a mile back, they flushed some game, they were chasing it, and by baying or being loud while chasing the quarry, the people on horseback could hear them, even though they're a mile back on horse, where to direct the the hunt.
Yes.
So now you're not going to convert a bloodhound, which is a very good dog for finding lost people,
Right.
into a dog which can do the level of obedience I just showed you, like a German Shepherd.
But
But it's not meant to.
no.
It's not meant to. The bottom line is most breeds were created for a specific purpose. Some breeds, like the German Shepherd, are multi-purpose breeds. But the bottom line is the idea of Schutzhund, invented by Captain Max von Stefanitz, was not only do I have a breed in terms of conformation, which is most breeds have a conformation, it's a description of what the dog should look like, right? But he devised a practical set of tests that after he dies, I think he died around 1935, and World War II started in 1939 with the attack of Poland, for those who are history buffs. Poland was attacked in 1939 by Germany, and that's the start of World War II. So he died 4 years before the invasion of Poland. But bottom line is that's besides the point. But the bottom line is that he invented a test to test the utility of the dog that would outlive him. And in Europe, in Germany and other European countries, people are very seriously doing this test,
So they could be
or so they can breed, or they can breed.
multitasking
Right.
utility dog. And that's
Right.
what I wanted you to point out because, there's a lot of people out there with other breeds, whatever they might be going, how does that apply to your herding? Or how does that, what I'm saying? That
Right. They're applying the intelligence. You're testing the intelligence of the animal to take command at a very high level at a very high distance from you. Most dogs will follow a command close to you, right next to you, right? But dogs don't generalize. If you show them the sit command in the kitchen and you take him to the park and you give him the same command, to them it's a different context. So that command means nothing. I'm like, I showed you sit in my house. You did it 85 times successfully, 85 out of 85. I took you to the park. I say sit. You're like, huh? They don't generalize. What you want is enough intelligence in the dog that after a few repetitions, the same command is done everywhere. And not all breeds can do that, by the way. Bottom line is that the test is devised as a breed worthiness test. Let me show some videos from your breed, Jim,
Go ahead.
and you might comment on them on the other side. Okay, let me show some videos of terriers. I'm going to show one by one, and now after we watch the video, I want you to comment on the other side. Okay?
Yes.
All right. All right. I'm gonna stop sharing and restart sharing. Okay, that seems to be how this program works. It doesn't continue sharing. You have to stop and restart. Hold on. So let me see how to do that.
We need to put some.
Share screen. All right.
We need to put selective pressure on that screen.
No. Exactly. I'm gonna click
Lifting or
play.
crunching.
This is
There's a smarter way.
There's a couple. 2 or 3. One in the pocket. Good boy. Good boy. Get it. Good lad. Get it. It's gone that way. And again. And again. Good boy. There you go. Coming back. Coming back. Drop your dog. Well done. Good dog. Good dog. Good dog.
Last month we were with Sam Green in Norfolk for a driven pheasant and partridge day. Now we're back at the shoot for a different kind of sport, ratting with a pack of terriers.
It does definitely look a bit like mayhem. It's actually quite.
Okay, it's a 7-minute video. I'm not going to show the entire video, but notice that they're excavating with a machine. As they're excavating, they're finding rats. Notice that dog was shaking the rat. Let me stop sharing so people can go back to the main screen. Let me see how to do. Okay, stop sharing. Okay, I'm getting smoother at this. So notice the dogs were killing the rats very seriously, and there was a whole pack of them, and they were killing the rats. Now they are doing the job the ratter was bred for. That's a real terrier. That's what a terrier was meant to do. You're watching a video of terriers killing rats. That is what a terrier is for. Now, if your terrier sits on the couch, watches TV with you while getting cookies, and will run away from a rat,
Well, Alex,
that's not a terrier.
I'm gonna tell you, just like the German Shepherd,
Right.
like I said, it's in your environment matters as to what kind of assessments and testings and usage of your dogs to get them out and work them to test their abilities, to test their problem solving skills, all of that. You're the environment you're in is what they can be tested, and you're not going to make something just appear to work them.
Right.
So, like those guys are working rats. If I get into a conversation with someone that lives out in Maryland or somewhere like that, they were bred for the fox. This. Okay.
What is the name of that book, Jim, that you can share with
Memoir
us?
of Reverend Jack Russell, 1878. Okay.
That's when the breed was created, right? 1878.
He was responsible for the development of the breed. Well, we all know that, just in the fifth generation of a pedigree on dogs, there's 64 dogs, right?
Right.
And then before 2, 4, 8, 16, 32, and 64, you add all those up on a 5-generation pedigree. That's a lot of dogs for one man to own.
That's right.
So this is a lovely romantic memoir of someone that just happened to be written about. This is what we have, and there's a few other books that you can get other ideas
You want to
about.
show the picture of that book for the audience, Jim, so I can put it in the.
It's one man don't develop a breed.
Well, in the German Shepherd, one man developed the breed. The same thing with the Doberman. One man developed the breed.
One man didn't breed it to develop solo. He had it's a lot of dogs. It's a lot of findings. They work together. Is there not?
Right. Right. Yes. He started the breed. You're right. But to keep going, you can't house 64 dogs. So he needed help from people who were like-minded,
They're breeders.
the other breeders. Now that's the problem. Remember at the beginning of the conversation, you asked me, why do you feel the breed changed? The breed changed in the German Shepherd or other breeds. You know why? Because in the 19th century, you had like-minded people with like-minded goals cooperating with each other to make a breed a breed. So you can't have one man own 64 dogs.
Right.
But you had partners which would raise puppies and raise them until adulthood and see what they were about. And they were all for the same goal, no matter what the breed. Doberman, Jack Russell. Now, breeders compete with each other as opposed to working with each other because they see themselves as competitor for puppy sales. So they're not breeding for the value the dog breeds. In other words, if a dog can eradicate a rat population on your farm, right? It has value. It has economic value, whether it produces pups for you or not. That dog is bringing you economic value, whether you're selling pups off of it or not. The dog breed gives you value for what you want that dog to do for you, right? Now, breeders think of dogs as a mechanism by which to sell pets.
My point
So they don't have value outside their ability to produce pets, and therefore breeders compete with each other as opposed to cooperate with each other. What are your thoughts?
Like that video with the rats, okay?
Right.
For the standard, they have to, be spanked by a grown man's two hands. When you're hunting rats and gophers and snakes, all the other things outside of a fox or maybe a groundhog, it it don't matter if their chest is 14 inches, 6 inches. They're not going to get in that rat hole. They might bring a mink to go in that hole, but you know what? They're digging it. They're using machines. They're eradicating. Okay, they're not going in a tunnel to get to the rats. So a lot of the standards for what they were originally set for with hunting and bolting fox don't apply to a total working dog of many disciplines. Each discipline is
Well, yes, but you're making a very valid point. Like, for example, if a dog can kill a rat, and I don't know the number, but let's say the chest has to be 7 inches wide. I don't know the number, but let's just say 7 inches for the sake of conversation. And a dog in the show ring, if his chest is 9 inches, I don't know the number. I'm just by way of example, right? If the chest is 9 inches wide, now in the show ring, that dog would be disqualified because he's outside the. It's like they're taking a tape measure and measuring the dog. So now a 9-inch chest would disqualify the dog in the show ring. But if that 9-inch chest dog can kill rats like nobody's business, who gives a damn? His chest is 2 inches wider. He can kill rats. Now I can have a dog with a 7-inch chest, which is perfect.
Or if he's an inch taller,
or an inch taller, or an inch, like for example, in the Jack Russell,
nothing.
They're supposed to be what, 11 inches tall maximum, right?
There's nothing that a big dog can do that a small dog can't do better. That's what they say, because they can get in those
right.
places. But you know what? It depends on your discipline and what's in your environment. So the selective pressures that people can put on them are different.
I understand that, but I understand what you're saying. But just let me finish my thought. What I'm saying is, if a dog is 12 inches, which is 1 inch over the standard, for the sake of conversation, right?
Yeah.
Now, if that 12-inch dog can hunt, that dog gets to be bred, even though he's 1 inch over the standard. But if a dog is perfect by the standard, he's 11 inches, but can't hunt, in the show ring, that dog will pass because his measurements are exactly the standard. But in the real world, if that dog can't hunt rats, using rats as an example, could be fox. My point is not the kind of vermin. My point is the idea that in the show ring, you're rewarding for a measuring stick. You're rewarding for perfect measurements according to the breed standard. It's like you're taking a tape measure and measuring the dog. But that's not breeding the total animal. That's an animal which conformationally is perfect conformationally. But it doesn't show any characteristics that it was meant to be for that breed to exist.
The ones that hunt those dogs that show, they don't do it prior to the show ring. They go to the show ring to make their debut, get their championships, and then they go introduce them to working, because once they start working, they don't act like that in the show ring.
Right, they got to be nice and calm in the show ring, right? Let's show another video and let's just comment on it on the other side, because these videos are worth watching because
I wanted people to
they're
see.
Very educational.
It's easy to get wrapped up in not knowing what's the dog being tested for. Most people think, hey, we got to get it out on an animal. That's what a lot of people do. That we see that watch a lot of your videos or our videos or my videos or someone else's videos. Oh, these are guys are talking about show stuff. It is not. I don't show dogs.
Line breeding as it relates to performance characteristics, not show character, although it can be applied for both. Let me share another screen, and let me show you another video here. Here's a Jack Russell going down, I think it's a foxhole, if I'm not mistaken. Now, Let me stop sharing. Let me stop sharing.
It could be a foxhole, or
I don't know what it is, but what I'm saying is that this dog is exhibiting the behavior of a ratter. He has dug a hole. He's hunting in that hole. He's not afraid to go in the hole because there may be a predator on the other side, which is cornered. And any animal that is cornered, fighting for its life, will fight for real. Here's a dog which is going into that hole with no hesitation. That's what you're seeing.
Yeah, he's not going to come back out. He's going to get in there and hold it there.
Right. Right.
So I don't want him to bay.
Right. So that's an example of a dog doing its job, going down the hole with no fear. Let's show another video.
If it comes back out, it's empty.
Right. Let me show another video which demonstrates what I'm saying.
Good gal, good gal. Good lass. I should. Come on, you buggers. Good gal, good gal. Good lass.
Okay, I don't know what the dog had in its mouth, but it killed something. I don't know what it was. And they said, good girl, good lass.
They're ratting.
I think it's a rat, but I couldn't tell for sure. But that dog is exhibiting working behavior. It's exhibiting the working behavior of its breed. Let's show some other breeds and get your input on the other side. Now we're going to show the winners of the show ring in 2024. This was only 2 years ago. These are German Shepherds from 2 years ago, which the judges judged the best in the world. These are the Siegers and the Grand Siegers. These are VA1 dogs. Watch this video and you tell me what you think of these dogs. I have my opinion, but watch the video.
We're not seeing it yet. Are you seeing it?
I paused the video. Look at the Mastiff type nose. It looks like a Mastiff. It doesn't look like a German Shepherd. It has a. It looks like a Connie Corso. Look at the muzzle.
We can't
Watch.
see it. We can't see it.
Oh, you can't. I didn't share it.
No.
Oh man, I thought I shared it. I'm sorry, guys.
It looked like you were enjoying it though. I was watching your face. I was like, yeah, it's good.
Oh, okay. I didn't realize I didn't share it. I'm having trouble today, guys. I'm sorry.
Man, it happens. Nothing's perfect, right?
Yeah. Watch this. Look at the muzzles. Look at the top line. Look at the overall head shape. Watch and it's a very short video. Watch. I'm going to be quiet. Let you judge for yourselves. Can you guys see my screen now?
Yes.
It shows Seeger 2024. Do you see that?
Yes.
Okay. Watch this. Now let's go back one step. Now look at these dogs' muzzles. Look at this muzzle. That looks like a mastiff. Look at the face. Look at this face. Does that look like the face of a German Shepherd?
Right.
Does that look at the top line? Does that look like a German Shepherd? Look at the angulation. Look at the roach of the back. Look how rounded the back is. Look at how rounded her back is. This one, look at how round. This is a VA4 dog. One of the top 4 in the world, according to VA4. VA4. Top 4 in the world. This is top 4 in the world? This is a more normal looking dog. All right, let me stop sharing that screen.
Top 4 in the world for what?
For the Showline. That's what it says. VA4, VA1 through VA4. Now, I'm not gonna comment. I already know my opinion. Do you think that looks like a German Shepherd, what you saw?
No.
It was only 2 years ago.
I have to ask you, companion and personal security dogs are pretty much the direction, is what my take is the direction of where the German Shepherd is.
No, not really.
Not hurting or what? I
No.
mean, what is it?
The breed is irrevocably broken. Irrevocably broken. In my opinion, I may be wrong, okay? I'm not claiming to be the world's expert in German Shepherds.
Yeah.
I'm giving you my opinion, okay? In my opinion, the West German Showline, the West German working line, and the Czech line and the working line are very similar. In fact, the Czech line and the working line are intermixed nowadays. This is not the days of the past where the Czech lines were derived from DDR dogs and were very civil and very aggressive. Today's Czech lines are bred for the same goals as the West German working line, which is success in the sport of IGP. The show line is bred for success in the show ring and can't protect you at all. It lost its protective instincts. So, in my opinion, if the genetic gene pool of a breed gene pool A and breed gene pool B, no longer intermix and become separate gene pools, they're separate breeds. Take, for example, the Belgian sheepdog. You have the you have the Belgian Malinois, the Belgian Tourveran, the Belgian Lacanois, and the Belgian and the Dutch Shepherd. Now, in the 19th century, there was something called the Kingdom of the Netherlands. So in today's time, Belgium and Holland are separate countries. But under 19th century, what is Belgium and what is Holland was one combined kingdom. It was not two kingdoms. It was not two countries. It was one country. It was called the Kingdom of the Netherlands. So the Dutch Shepherd and the Belgian Shepherd, well, the dogs don't know Belgium and Holland are now separate countries. They speak French in Belgium and they also speak Flemish, which is the same as Dutch, essentially. So now, these are varieties of the Belgian sheepdog. They were different enough that they became separate breeds. In my opinion, the Showline and the working line are different enough that you can no longer consider it one breed.
So you breed.
I would separate. I breed working lines.
You breed
I would separate that into two separate breeds.
working companion. You breed, right?
Working companion, not Showline. Now let's take a look at the difference visually. You tell me what you think, okay? I'm going to show you a working line. And you tell me if this looks like the same breed. Historically, it's the same breed. Let me share the screen. 1 second. I'm going to share the screen. Now, this is a dog working obedience, but I'm going to show you a physical structural difference that you can see. Here is the 2016 World Champion.
Hey, Copilot, adjust all these recipes for 7 guests and combine them.
I don't know about all these commercials. I don't know.
Just
I don't know what all this. Yeah, watch this dog. There's very dramatic music playing.
my opinion.
Notice he's hitting him to see if he will give up the grip. Because a real criminal will hit the dog back. He's testing the fight drive of the dog. A stick hits are no longer allowed. look at this dog. Now that's a majestic beast.
Well, you want my opinion?
Now, what do you think? That's the same breed you saw as the other dogs?
Oh, man, it's way worse. I'm just saying that because I know that's your line of dogs that you breed. Just messing with you. You
My
know,
dog Winston is that dog is the great grandson of my dog Winston.
oh, it's a beautiful dog.
Yeah.
I see.
You see power. You see
Compassion.
power to the helper, no fear of the helper. You see
Yeah.
athleticism.
You
You
know,
see masculine energy.
now out of a working companion breed, you know, because it's really there's not been a lot of selection pressure stuff that we've talked about. So I'm going to put on here the fact of what do you think you could get something from a that's useful from a show line for your working companion dogs?
Are you saying crossbreed a show line with a working line?
Something, a trait, or something that could be useful to you. Because I'm going to say this. Here we go. If they're breeding for structure, because that's all they would be breeding for, right? Because
Right.
they're all right. So if I take this and the working dogs that are being worked are just being bred to go get in the dirt, I want to see you eat with this fork, okay? Because or dig with a shovel that's on a 45-degree angle, okay? All right, because structure, and no matter what it is, pick something. It's not going to take away my working things.
Well, no. In this case, Jim, I have to disagree with you. Let me explain. First of all, structure in the show line is how it is interpreted in today's times. So structure in the 1970s, early 1980s was not that different
no.
between the working line and show line, and the show lines could work. So they were in not that far apart as they are
But
now.
it can
That's
work.
that they did work. Now, number one. Number two, let's say for argument's sake, for conversation purposes, I would breed a less extreme show line, which has a flatter back, not so angulated. Let's say I find one which is a better example, right? And I breed it to ugly but high drive working line, right? So we have the ugly working line and the pretty show line, and I create a crossbreed of a show line working line cross.
And then we would
Some
take
people will say, well, that's a perfect middle ground, right? The answer is it's not. Here's why. In the working line, you have a lot of drive. You have prey drive, fight drive, defense drive. In the show line, that's gone. What you have is a dog that can do obedience, but not much else, not bite work.
so
Now, so
you
you
don't
don't, let me just finish my thoughts. Now, you have a dog with a lot of drive from this side, but without the nerve strength to contain that drive from this side. So you wind up with mud. It is neither a working dog because it doesn't have the drive contained by a strong nervous system. But at the same time, you don't have the confirmation that the show judges are now looking for. They are looking for that extreme exaggeration. So a more normal dog will not pass the show ring. So by creating a hybrid to reintegrate the breed, will not pass today's show ring because they're not looking for that. They're looking for that over-angulated look. That's what they're looking for. So if you were to breed a hybrid of a show line to a working line, it is neither a show line nor a working line. It doesn't have the drive of the working line in its highest form, but more importantly, it doesn't have the nerve strength to contain all that drive.
I get it. Yeah.
And the show people will still not pass it. So the bottom line is if you wanted to reintegrate the breed and crossbreed show lines and working lines, which is very seldom done, except a one-off here and there, it would still not reintegrate the breed. All what has to be done is the SV, the parent breed club, because it's still not considered a separate breed. It is still the same breed, has to create an edict of forcing a crossbreeding program of working to show not one dog once in a while, every here and there, but at a high volume, 100, 150, 200, 300 dogs, which have to be blended together to reintegrate into becoming one breed again. But that's never going to happen because you're not going to please this audience or that audience. So it's not going to happen.
The
So you
difference
might as well
is,
separate the breed.
the difference is my breed, my terriers, and all of that goes on with them is way different than what you have to deal with
Right.
the German Shepherd, where the breed is with the German Shepherd.
True.
You know,
What's a
that's
different breed? Right.
completely, because I can take and scoop up some straightening factors and snatch those traits because it hasn't been bred all over the place for 5 different subbreeds of
Right.
different areas. It just hasn't worked that way. So
So
that's
you're lucky. So you're lucky.
yes, the difference is in that's what it just goes right back to a lot
Selection pressure. Selection pressure. Right.
yes. That's
Well,
what
that's what the German Shepherd was like in the 70s. You didn't have this. You didn't have 5. You had 5 subbreeds to a small degree, meaning the American Showline, the West German Showline, the working line, and the DDR line and the Czech line. These are 5 subtypes. They existed,
yeah.
but more as a temperament difference, not a tremendous conformation difference. Now, they're so conformationally different and the gene pools are so divided, I don't think you can reunite them. Let's go on with the American Bulldog really quickly, and we'll finish up on that particular breed. Let me just bring up that example. We're going to bring up the Johnson Bulldog, which was a reincarnation of the British Bulldog, which has significant respiratory problems, significant problems breathing naturally, has terrible lung capacity. So we're going to go with an American Bulldog as an attempt to recreate the British Bulldog, but make it healthier. And we're going to see what that looks like.
Yeah, things
I
like
want to share that screen in a minute once I bring it up. 1 second.
natural selection, those things.
No, it was selected by a breeder called the, I forgot his name. Bear with me, I'll find it. It's called the Johnson Bulldog because a breeder named Johnson
Yeah.
created that recreation. There were 2 types, the Johnson type and another type. 1 second. I'm gonna find it and bring it up. Just 1 second, please. All right. Let's share the screen. Let me share my screen. Bear with me.
Don't forget to do it twice. We didn't get to see
Yeah,
it.
you got to do it 2 steps twice in this program. Yeah. Now this is the Johnson American Bulldog. I want you to look at the length of the legs. The muzzle is not all the way to the back of the head where they still have a length of a muzzle that gives them breathing ability. They can reproduce naturally at this height. They can run at up to 35 miles an hour. And these are American Johnson type bulldogs. Now, this is what an American Johnson Bulldog looks like. Let's compare it to the British Bulldog of today. Now let's stop sharing and restart sharing. Otherwise, this program doesn't automatically reshare. So let's share it again.
But we did see the picture of the British Bulldog.
Oh, you did?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Did I share? Are you seeing what I shared or it does? Oh, okay. Hold on. Let me do it again.
I saw the English Bulldog.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you guys see that?
Yes.
Now, this is the British Bulldog of today. He can barely breathe. His nose is so short. Listen how hard it's. Oh, you can hear it. How hard it's wheezing. Look how short its
The British
legs are.
Bulldog, a symbol of England, is known for its distinct appearance and charming personality, capturing the hearts of many across the globe. This iconic breed has a rich history that dates back centuries, serving as guardians and companions to families. Originating in the British Isles, this breed was once used for bull baiting, but has since transformed into a beloved family pet, known for its loyalty and...
So this dog lies down, and not because it's a passive dog in terms of temperament, but because it simply can't breathe. So all it can do is lie down. In other words, it has no air. So it has to lie down.
Well, you know, they can't have
They can't even have puppies natural. They need a C-section.
yeah, so they would be extinct in no time.
That would be just the instinct in nature, right? If you can't reproduce your own young, you would be extinct. And so,
And my Russell Terriers would be living because they would come and be behind them, scooping them up.
right, here's a video from documentary TV. I find that to be a pretty reputable channel. And I'm going to show a video very quickly, share with the audience. Now, look at this, the American Bulldog on this
Documentary TV, producing the best breed documentaries on YouTube.
The breed we know as the American Bulldog was originally known by many different names before the American Bulldog became the standard. In different parts of the southern United States, the breed was known as the White English Southern American Kennel Club Standard.
It was originally known as the White English Southern Bulldog. Originally, it was in the southern United States. Let's keep watching.
In fact, there are a variety of American Bulldogs called the Johnson, which is a very popular variety, and those dogs often get above 100 pounds. And there's another variety, the American Bulldog called the Scott. They're leaner, more athletic. They can often be less than the 75-pound minimum that the American Kennel Club has prescribed for the breed. The personality of the American Bulldog can be described as...
Now you see how it runs and brings back the toy tug to the handler? Because it actually can run, because it can breathe, and because its nose, while still breastophilic, still is not that short that it can get air into its nose.
Energetic, assertive, loyal, friendly, confident, dominant, and gentle. American Bull.
This, I'm going to stop sharing. This is a dominant, gentle breed that comes from the American South, developed in the 1970s, and it's a recreate. They used some pit bulls in it. They used Staffordshire Terriers. They used British Bulldogs. They bred over and over and over until they got a new breed called the American Bulldog. Now, if you compare it to the British Bulldog, it's night and day. In my estimation, the British would do well to outbreed the British Bulldog to the American Bulldog and then breed back. And it's so inbred and so unhealthy as a breed, unless they breed to the Dogo Argentino, but that's more of a fighting dog originally. But maybe the American Bulldog, I don't know the answer, but the bottom line is the British Bulldog is so sick and so beyond repair. The only way to save it is to outbreed to a healthier, some other kind of bulldog. I don't think the British Bulldog as it exists can be saved. So I think the selection pressure to make the dog cute and short with stubbly legs and bowed feet, that created a very sick dog. What do you feel, Jim, about the ability of the pelvis to pass young? What do you feel about the British Bulldog and how it's changed under selection pressure?
You know, it's like I was saying, we're to kind of emulate the wild in captivity, you know, so they depend on us for the food, depend on us for, we have to test them. They're not going to test them sitting on the couch.
Right.
You know, with whatever discipline it is, ability, test their abilities, test their temperaments, structure, you know, all of that. We're supposed to be doing what that's all we're doing. Emulating the wild.
Supposed to be, right.
Natural selection.
Artificial selection.
Artificial selection.
Right.
What else?
The problem we have right now is that we're in the fur mama, fur daddy concept where the people call dogs fur children, and then they call a dog the brother of their human child. I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? This is a dog. This is not a brother of a human child.
Part of the dog that's not in the wild, the artificial.
Right. They're anthropomorphizing dogs.
Those in the wild weren't companions.
No.
They were different temperaments. The domesticated part became the companion part.
Correct. Now, I'm not saying dog cannot be loving. I'm not saying that.
Sure.
But what I'm saying is that some dogs should simply not be bred. Not every dog should be bred. Some dogs are not worthy of breeding. And I think today's breeders are so money hungry. I'm not talking about you and me and ethical breeders. I'm talking about backyard breeders and puppy mill breeders. That's what I'm talking about. I think they're so out to make a buck, they breed anything to anything to make puppies. But part of the fault, in my opinion, I'm gonna sound a little controversial, but I'm gonna ask you how you feel. But part of the fault is not just the breeders. You know whose fault it is partially? The buyers. The buyers are at fault for two reasons. The buyers are at fault because they have a vending machine psychology. They want a dog any time of year they want it. So they talk. I mean, I have people calling me for a puppy. Do you have any puppies? I said, no, we're going to have a breeding in such and such a date, and puppies will be born 2 months later, and they'll be available to you 2 months after that. So 4 months overall time frame, and you'll have a very nice litter of European bred working dogs.
Right.
Well, I can't wait. Do you know anybody who has puppies? Now, here's the problem with this conversation. I'm not a referral service. I don't make money referring and getting other people's dogs recommended. They think like a breeder's a referral service. I'm not a referral service. I'm in business for myself. Now, that's number one. Number two, in their rush to get a pet, they don't care what they get. Like, for example, I had a lady call me a few days ago who shall remain nameless. She called me and she says, do you remember me? We spoke 4 years ago. I said, remind me of your name. Your voice sounds familiar because I don't remember every conversation from 4 years ago. She says to me, well, I was talking to you about show lines and working lines and DM testing and genetic testing and the importance of all that. You laid it all out for me. You educated me, but I couldn't wait to get a puppy. I just went ahead and got a puppy right away. I didn't wait for your puppy. And I'm thinking to myself, then why are you calling me? You didn't get a dog from me. Why are you calling me? And so she says to me, well, my dog died. I says, oh, I'm very sorry to hear that. I mean, she's in mourning. She's in pain. I had no idea, right? She says, so I want to get a puppy from you now that it's 4 years later. I said, if you don't mind me asking, what did your dog die of? Well, my dog died of DM, degenerative myelopathy. He became paralyzed. It was in terrible pain. It had a lot of other diseases. It was very sickly. I spent a lot of money on veterinary bills to get that dog to be healthy. I can't even tell you how much I spent on veterinary bills. And I was devastated when this dog died. I said, I'm sorry for your pain, ma'am. I really am. I says, why didn't you wait for me? I wasn't that far away from having a litter. Well, I just wanted the puppy right away, very fast. He says, if you don't mind me asking, how much did you pay for that puppy? She says, $850. I said, oh, $850. I said, do you realize at that price point, the breeder can't afford to do genetic testing and orthopedic testing? Well, I know that now, she says. I remembered our conversation from 4 years ago, but now I'm in a lot of heartache and pain. My dog died because it was not genetically tested, and that was a large kennel, 15 dogs of one breed, 15 dogs of another breed. They were running a 45 dog facility. I said, 45 dogs? One person can possibly manage 45 dogs himself. She says, yeah, they had puppies all year long. Well, that's what happens when people demand dogs all the time when they want it. So I think puppy parents have to understand that if you want a dog any time of year you want, what you get may or may not be quality. Dogs are not produced like a manufacturing process of a car. A Toyota Camry is made, it's assembled, it's a machine, and it's assembled so many cars per month every month, or a Ford or a Chrysler. It doesn't matter. It's a machine, and there's an assembly line making the machine. It's a precision parts. So every Toyota Camry is like any other Toyota Camry. It's built to a certain fault tolerance. It's a machine. You're buying a living thing that you will be with you for 12 to 14 years. Why are you in a hurry that you can't wait another month to get a dog, or 2 months at most? The right dog is waiting for from a responsible breeder. People have to stop demanding dogs on the fly, like from a vending machine. And a lot of people ask me, can I buy a dog online? I says, this is not Amazon, I said. This is not an Amazon shopping cart. I got to talk to you. I got to understand your living situation. I got to understand if you can house the dog, if you have the finances to take care of the dog in terms of veterinary care, whether your goals for this dog. I got to have a conversation with you. It's not like ordering a shopping cart and you click, 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 and you have a shopping cart and you check out and you pay, you check out. If somebody sells you a dog like it's a shopping cart, like it's so easy, like Amazon, that's not the right person to sell you a dog. And the problem is that also these pet stores offer easy financing. So the dog might be 4,500. If you have to lay out 4,500 in cash, you don't have it. But if they offer you 120 a month for 36 months or whatever that number is, now you can pay 120 a month and you can finance that dog. Well, if you don't have 4,500 and you got to put a dog on a credit card, you shouldn't be buying that dog. You don't have the money. But if a breeder will sell you a quality dog for 3,500, let's say, cash, and you have the cash, now you're getting a better animal because there's no financing involved. Anybody who sells you a dog on terms, that's a consumer purchase. Like you're buying a car or you're buying a refrigerator, you're putting it on credit and you're buying it like on credit. Anybody selling you a dog on credit, get away from them. Anybody running a large farm with multiple breeds under one roof, that's what I asked her. Why didn't you go away? The person was running a puppy mill. Why didn't you walk away? You saw the conditions the dogs were living in. Why did you buy? I was just in a hurry to buy. I really wanted a dog. Well, I said, you're an impulsive buyer, I said. I'm sorry, but that's what you are. I'm going to tell you straight what you are. Now, I wasn't trying to be mean,
Sure.
but I told her facts. Now, she doesn't like facts. She says, yes, I know I'm in a lot of pain emotionally now because I was very attached to this dog and I didn't wait for one of your dogs. She says, can I put a deposit? I said, well, let me see if my dog is pregnant. We'll do an ultrasound and we'll figure it out later. Now, I'm not in the mood to sell her a dog because she's already shown me her impulse control is 0. So now, impulse buying is a bad driver for bad breeding. And it's up to the consumer to demand a certain quality level from their breeder. So people often talk about bad breeders. Well, what about bad consumers? Which to call breeders, I had people email me a web application form and they only give me their phone number and their name. They tell me nothing about themselves, whether they have kids, grandkids, whether they have a house or they rent, and if their lease allows a dog. They don't tell me anything about a large breed experience. It's a powerful 90-pound dog. You can't handle a 30-pound Frenchie. You're not going to handle a 90-pound German Shepherd. So now, if you can't take 5 minutes to fill out a form, I'm not selling you a dog. You know why? If you put so little thought that you can't fill out a form, what makes me want to sell you a dog? So people have an entitlement psychology. As long as I pay money, I get what I want. No, you don't.
Man.
And I think some of the breeding problems come from shows or confirmation where a tape measure is the solution. But some of the problems comes from filling a need for volume, but not quality. And I think buyer behavior influences volume production. And I think that volume production would stop if buyers would refuse to buy with no standards. What are your thoughts, Jim?
My thoughts are where the clients are concerned. You know, I feel like they're not being educated by the breeder. Okay. You know, they depend on the breeder to know and do those things and to be ethical, you know. I have to say I'm guilty. I'm a backyard breeder because I breed in the backyard.
What do you want them to breed? In the Ritz-Carlton? You want them to rent a hotel room?
Educating your customers
Right.
can help them on those things, you know that?
Right.
they're not breeding the dogs. We are.
Right.
You know, the registries aren't breeding the dogs. We are.
No. Right.
The registry don't make dogs look like that. They don't do those things. It's the breeders that do it. And it's our job to be educated, know the hell, know what we're breeding, and give good quality dogs, you know, for the representation of your breed. Put those artificial pressures on your dog to simulate whatever it is that you're utilizing those dogs for, you know. And the more we know about our dogs and we can share and help the client understand what they're getting, we can't make them change the way they think. Okay, if they're just those kind of pushy people, I can't even fathom having to deal with somebody that's like, "More dog now." I don't, you know. And then there's times, you know, where you know I may have more litters this year. I know I will because I'm looking for dogs from certain dogs to hold.
Perpetuate your line. Right.
Yeah, so you have to breed more when they start getting older. You don't want to not have something to carry on that if you have those dogs in your line,
Right.
line to begin with. Things happen, and there's just a big misconception all the way around. I feel like, you know, it's just a case by case. You know,
It is case by case, but I think one of the goals of this channel and other channels like it is that we're presenting unvarnished information. Now, a lot of TikTok videos show usually a male and white healing, fancy footwork, and that looks sexy and all. I had a customer call me for training purposes. He says, "Do you offer board and train?" I said, "I do." He says, "I want in 5 weeks a fully trained, off leash personal protection dog, and it's a 9-month-old puppy." I spoke to him. I said, "At that age, that's not possible, and 5 weeks is not possible." I said, "You got to have basic obedience in the dog first. Then we take it to advanced obedience. It knows to find heel command. It has to find the heel position. It has to have a stolid downstay off leash. It has to have impulse control." It says there's a whole progress of training a dog before you get to the final result. They want magic that they see on TikTok
not going to be on that
in 5 weeks, which is I turned him down because he's just not realistic. People have to have realistic expectations. The problem is in today's instant gratification society, people have forgotten how to have realistic expectations from animals. And at the first sign of trouble, they will blame the breeder. But how about looking within and asking yourself, did I know anything about this breed before buying it? Number one, did I do my research? Number two,
That's right.
do I know what a properly bred dog looks like versus an improperly bred dog looks like?
They may not. Whose
Go
job?
ahead, Jim.
So they may not. Whose job is it to? Were they?
I think, well, there's plenty of information on the internet. I mean, right now with Google, thank God that was invented. There's so much information out there that you can just click at your fingertips. ChatGPT now is a very good tool. I've used it multiple times. It's very useful.
They're not.
And there's so much information, but you know what? People are too lazy to look it up.
They are. You know.
They are.
I think they're less lazy about it, and then they feel like they get overeducated. Like all of a sudden they know everything. And
well, they think they do. They know what they read on the internet, but that's not real. That's not real life, right?
I mean, really, they should be able to depend on me as the breeder.
Yes, I agree. I agree.
You know, when they're calling me, you know what you're getting. You know.
Right.
I'm not. Again, it's not going to come at 8 weeks. You know.
Right.
Socialized with geese, ducks, horses, goats. You know. You know. I guess I could put the puppies in the box and ride them, which I do before they leave. I try to get them used to riding a couple, 2 or 3 times, you know, just to introduce them to it for their trips home or whatever. But you know what? When I take that, I guess I could just drive everywhere, drive through the pasture, and see all the animals, and consider them to be socialized with those animals looking out the window. That's not happening with puppies. It's not what.
No, it's just too young.
Not
See,
what
what happens is that, and I think we're gonna wrap up very soon. But I think what has to happen is it's up to breeders. I spend a lot of time on the phone call to talk to my future buyers because I care where my puppies end up and what kind of life they will have. As a producer of life, I have a responsibility for that life.
right.
Those puppies are my kids in dog form, and I really care about their outcome. But a lot of people, they're they're in a hurry. They want a bottom line. What's the bottom line price? You're not talking to a car salesman, number one. You're talking to a human being which produced that litter and took care of it from the moment it was born.
What's the
Uh,
bottom
uh,
price?
what's the bottom line price? I'm like,
Tell you this one cheaper.
there is no bottom line price. You're not the right person. Have a nice day. That's it.
I can
If
see
I
it.
see attitude, I just shut off. Now, the people, I want to develop a relationship with my future puppy customer. I will educate them, and I want a lot of back and forth. I want to feel their personality, what they're like, what they're looking for, and make sure it's a good match. But people are so, they treat it as a consumer purchase as if they're buying, I don't know, a pair of shoes or a dress or a pair of pants. It's not a consumer purchase. I don't consider myself selling puppies. I consider myself placing puppies. There's a difference. Anyhow, I think we made our points.
I don't
Do
even
you
know.
want to add anything, Jim?
I don't even know where I can find one that you could get. You know what I mean? That's crazy.
Do you want to add any final thoughts, Jim,
You know,
about?
not really. You know, I just breed for the total dog, Alex.
Me too.
The total dog, and I want to preserve, improve, and enhance.
Well, I applaud you. I applaud you because in all our conversations, which all came about, the most important thing that a good breeder should be is a lover of animals, number one, and number two, should have a high moral code and a high moral compass. You want to see the betterment of the breed. You want to see animals treated fairly and nicely and ethically. And you want to not make a sale. You want to improve the breed, and you have to hold yourself accountable for the life you produce. And
Yeah,
I think if people approach it from an ethical point of view and breed with the purpose of improving the breed or maintaining the breed to the highest possible standard, I think everybody will be fine. The problem is that when people breed indiscriminately, everything is not fine. Or when show judges put priority on what is right and what is wrong, that is not fine.
yeah.
So I think we have to go back to basics, and I think a lot of our breeds should be go back to what they were in the 19th century as much as possible, not what they are now. And I think that would be a desirable goal in many breeds.
Yeah. Can't be a
Uh,
competition. I'm in
right,
competition with no one. I'm in competition with what
right,
I can do with my dogs.
right. You're not in competition with the breeders. You're in competition with yourself
So,
in what you can do and develop in your line. Correct.
not in
Right,
competition to sell puppies.
right. Well, guys, it's been an interesting conversation. We always have these interesting conversations. I want you to please subscribe to this channel. It costs you nothing. I want you to click like and subscribe. I am a salesperson for New Vet Vitamins. I hope you visit their website and give them my order code 808703. I hope you visit Jim's channel on YouTube. I'm going to post a link to his channel and his website at the description of this video. Please visit his site. He's a very ethical person. He's a very fine human being. And I wouldn't have him on the show otherwise. He is an excellent steward of the breed, his breed, and he inspires confidence in me that when I bring somebody on my show, I bring somebody of good character who looks for the best for his animals. And I recommend him if that's the kind of dog you're looking for. If you're a terrier person, Jim is your man. Uh, of course, if you were looking for a German Shepherd, I'm around too.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is, I want to thank Jim. He's a person of outstanding character, and I love talking to him. I hope you found this valuable, and I hope you will come back to this video and share it, like and subscribe, and share it as much as you can, because the YouTube algorithm knows we're relevant if you click like and subscribe. Then the YouTube algorithm knows we're relevant, and we'll continue bringing you content on genetics, selection, training, and many other topics. So please click like and subscribe. Jim, you want to say goodbye to the audience and share your
Yeah.
contact information, your website?
Thanks. Thanks for having me on, Alex, and appreciate all those kind comments. Sharing and getting this out to people, and getting any information that hopefully you find valuable is more important than anything for me. So share.
Thank you. All right, YouTube family, have a good night. Thank you. Until the next one.
See you, Alex.
See you.